Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of August 25th. Before we get started here, last week I mentioned that the county's looking to purchase this, what's called the Durst property. It's 625 acres, open to the public for hunting, recreation. Got a stretch of the Sugar River that connects a bunch of other Dane County properties. Personally, I think it's a no-brainer for the county to purchase this, but that this purchase does have to still be approved by the county board. So it's nothing set in stone yet. But I would encourage anyone that's interested in this property and lives in Dane County to reach out to their county supervisor and tell them that you support this cause. If you're looking to figure out who your supervisor is, you can go on the Dane County website here. Over on the government tab, drops down. Over here, you can click on Find My Supervisor, and a handy map comes up here where you can just scroll in and look up your supervisor by where you live. For instance, the shop is up here in District 18. Just give her a quick click. Michelle Ridd is our supervisor. You click on more info, and you can their email pops right up here. So you can get, I'd encourage anyone that's interested and supports this project to shoot your supervisor an email and just say something simple like, "Hey, just want to let you know I support the purchase of the Durst property. You know, for recreation purposes," whatever you want to say. But it's a good opportunity to make your voice heard. And honestly, these just a simple email to your local officials for in any level of government really is a great opportunity to make a difference. They enjoy hearing from the folks they represent. Um, I guess a little bit of shop news quick. We have hunting regulations in, so nice of the DNR to get those to us this year before October. So last year they didn't come until October, so it's nice to have those in. Stop in and pick some up. We did start selling doe, the bonus doe tags last week, so folks are already got hunting on the mind. And I guess as far as cooler weather goes, made a post yesterday. We have tip-ups in, so they are not on the shelves yet, but they came in yesterday. So it was a little hard to think about ice yesterday, but with the heat we had, but got tip-ups in. They have their limited edition ones. They always come out with some special ones from year to year. They got this one that's Fire Tiger. It's a muskie painted in like Fire Tiger pattern with a Fire Tiger flag, and a camo one with a black flag. So I know there's several people that collect these, and people like having something different out on the ice. So I'm sure those won't last long. But we also have all the traditional ones too that folks like. So those will be going up probably mid-October, something like that. I guess I'll get on to the report. So weather-wise, the heat was the big news this last week. We had heat indexes over 100 degrees the last few days there. So there haven't really been many folks getting out on the water. The heat's on its way out. It's actually nice out today. And tomorrow and Sunday, we got temps in the mid-70s. Looks gorgeous. And then into next week, I didn't see a temp that barely cracked 80. So some real nice temperatures coming through for all the rest of the next week. Didn't look like much rain. We could still use some rain here. But great opportunities to get out and do some fishing, that's for sure. The buoy on Lake Mendota is still down. I'm not sure what's going on there, but so I don't have an accurate water temp for you, but temps are surely up from last week. I'd imagine temps are at or above just 80 degrees or so. Last week they were in the high 70s. They got to be probably, I don't know, 80 degrees on Mendota, and then you go down the chain. I did see a report online. Kegonsa, somebody reported they had 81.3 degrees or something, and that was on Tuesday, so that was before all the heat. So water temps are definitely too warm for muskie fishing right now. And check the stream temps when you're on the trout streams too. 67 degrees or warmer, you're going to want to give those fish a break. But we got some nice cool weather coming in, and things should come down nicely, so folks can get out and enjoy that good fall fishing or late summer fishing we got. Generally around the chain, like I said, the heat's had a lot of anglers inside, but folks are still getting fish, mostly in the mornings and evenings. Sounds like floating weeds are causing problems depending on wind and where you're at, but I hear water clarity remains pretty decent around the chain. You can also see that reflected here on the Dane County Public Health website. All the beaches are open, except for Olin. Might be a little gross over there, but yeah. Gills are still being found on weed beds on Lake Mendota and suspended over deep water pretty much everywhere else on the chain. Redworms and spikes are working well for those fish. Perch action remains spotty on Mendota and elsewhere. Largemouth bass are being found shallow around the chain, and smallmouth bass and walleye are being picked up in good numbers on shoreline breaks and mid-lake humps, with crawlers and fathead minnows working well for those fish. Pike are plentiful, but with this heat, I haven't really heard anything in the way of muskie action. A lot of folks staying off the water. Area streams are running, they're in good shape, but the heat's also shut trout fishing down recently. Local rivers are also running very low, but there has been some great smallmouth action on the Wisconsin River specifically. Up here on the north side, we'll get started in the details. On Cherokee, I drove by here just the other day, and the weeds didn't look as bad as they did last time I was up there. So nice to see some weeds kind of tapering off out there. So there's definitely some open pockets, great area to run a frog through. You probably sneak a bobber in a couple places too. So, but if not, if you got a boat or a canoe or kayak or something, you can launch here at the Cherokee Marsh or the School Road launch, get out into the channel and go up and down. And folks have been doing well with bass and pike on the weed lines. Down to 113 Bridge area, nice mixed bag as always coming out of there, but catfish are still the star down there. A lot of folks getting some nice cats still, so some decent numbers too. So some great opportunities for that. On Mendota, in summer, a lot of people are looking for perch this time of year, and occasionally I hear good reports of perch on weed lines and out a little deeper, but it sounds like mostly small fish with the keepers remaining pretty elusive. I've heard a couple good reports of folks getting larger fish if you can punch through weeds or find small pockets, but it's been tough. The good news is the gills are keeping folks busy enough on the weed lines with a few of those Mendota dinner plates, jumbo gills showing up. It's also nice to hear that I hear more and more folks releasing those jumbos because we got to protect the fishery there, so that's good to hear. I do hear about the occasional crappie here and there, but those fish are scattered at best. All the panfish, perch, bluegills, and crappies are liking a small jig tipped with a spike or redworm, maybe a waxy. The occasional walleye or smallmouth bass are also snapping up those jigs as well on occasion. Largemouth bass, like I mentioned, remains good up shallow, and smallmouth action's actually been great from shore and out deeper this last week for whatever reason. Folks have been reporting good numbers of smallmouth from shore, and Noah Humfeld was in the other day, and he's had clients slamming the smallmouth shoreline breaks and mid-lake humps with several fish in the 20-inch range in his boat this week, so that's great to hear. The walleye action with the heat seems to have slowed a little bit, but the fish are still getting caught in that same 15 to 20 feet of water near shoreline breaks and mid-lake humps, Dunn's Bar, Second Point, Commodore, Brearley, but also, the breaks near Maple Bluff and Fox Bluff and Picnic Point, stuff like that, are all producing fish. Tenney Park continues to fish pretty well with some nice fish coming off the breakwall over here. And at dusk and dark, they continue to also pull some nice fish below the locks here. They're still dumping a bunch of water out of Lake Mendota, so let's bring some more current in, which pushes fish up. So I've heard about some nice walleyes, some good gills in there. I also forgot to mention, I still hear about folks getting catfish. They're dispersed all over the lake now, but in like 15, 20 feet of water, jigging for walleyes or fish and bass, whatever. Folks are, it seems like every person that comes in says, oh, I picked up a huge cat when I was out there. So that's fun to hear though, too. Also down on Tenney in the lagoon, still some nice largemouth down there. And of course, a bunch of tiny gills. Out on Monona, floating weeds and algae can still be a problem depending on where you're at. Some gills are still being found on the weed lines, but most of your gills are going to be found suspended out over deep water, 15 to 20 feet down. The gills at bass and pike are being caught in Monona Bay and the triangles over here in decent numbers. They've had the weed mowers over there, so casting and fishing over there is more pleasant now. Out from the wall here at the Monona Terrace, they've been picking up good numbers of gills. Got to sort through them to get some keepers, but they're definitely getting good gills during the day, and then a decent crappie bite at night. Lake Wingra, pretty much the same as it always is. A bunch of tiny gills, some nice bass, and a few muskies in there, although I haven't heard much about muskies on Wingra or Monona this week. Down to Upper Mud, they've been doing pretty well on topwater frogs across the thick weed mats over here. Weeds are still pretty thick down there, but also fishing the channel, picking up some pike and some bass in there too, where you can boat through there. Wabisa, pretty much the same deal down there as Monona. Weeds can be a problem depending on where you are, but folks are getting fish. I've heard about some good reports of gills in kind of the Hog Island area down near Christie's and the rock pile out here, but out over deep water for the most part. Anywhere from 20 plus feet, just drifting around looking for schools out there. I've heard about fish anywhere from 8 feet down to 20 feet. So keep an eye on your electronics, and you'll find some fish out there. It sounds like there's plenty around. Walleyes still being caught out here, but that action's been spotty out from Babcock down to Lake Farm. And good largemouth action on Wabisa too. And again, haven't heard much in the way of muskies. Lake Kegonsa, still some good gill action down there with fish being suspended in that same 15 to 20 feet out over deep water. Haven't heard anything in the way of walleyes or really anything else out of Kegonsa. But I guess that pretty much does it locally. I heard Kashkonong has a blue-green algae bloom going on, so the water's kind of gross down there. But and I actually haven't heard much in the way of reports. But in the river itself, from Indian Ford up to through Fort Atkinson and up to Jefferson Dam, some good mixed bag action down there with some flathead catfish showing up. So that's fun. This time of year, a lot of people targeting flatheads as they're a little more active. Beaver Dam Lake, same thing as it's been all summer. A good eater catfish bite over there. Crystal Lake as well. Yellow bass are snapping over there in good numbers. Decent crappie bite at night. Haven't heard much out of Devil's Lake. I'm sure the trout are deep over there. The Wisconsin River's running low again, up and down the river though. But like I mentioned in the intro, the smallmouth bass fishing out there has been fantastic. The shallow water I mentioned many times concentrates fish in the pockets wherever you can find any kind of deeper water. And when I say deeper water, I mean it might not even be waist deep, but if it's everything around it's only up to your knees, that's where you're going to want to be fishing. Look at sandbars, the backsides of sandbars, corners where the water pushes in, wood along the banks. The topwater frog bite's been great. There's a ton of shad in the river right now, so smallmouth are chasing those shad around. They get them all schooled up and bust them on the surface. When you see those smallmouth breaking on the surface, chasing bait fish around, cast right in there with any type of minnow imitation, whether it's fly rod or spinning rod, and you'll likely get hit. And that's a real exciting way to fish. Up to the Prairie du Sac Dam, heard about mixed bag of fish, some sturgeon up there, some flatheads showing up, and everything that swims in the river seems like you can catch up there at the dam. Haven't heard a lot out of Lake Wisconsin. Folks are catching good numbers of fish, but not really what they're targeting. The walleye seem to be on the small side. A lot of sheep's head, white bass, catfish, stuff like that. Sounds like panfish have been pretty good in woody areas. Over here, I haven't really heard much from Portage up to the Dells recently, but again, fantastic smallmouth water in there. I haven't heard much out of the Dells Dam specifically. Castle Rock and Petenwell dams have been producing, of course, the same mixed bag that all the dams produce, but the occasional flathead coming out of there and some sturgeon showing up. I haven't heard much specifically out of Castle Rock Lake. Sounds like Petenwell, though, has been fishing pretty well. Walleyes still on points, and breaks, channel breaks. The channel winds through here pretty intensely, so they're getting some good fish in those areas. But panfish also have been showing up and biting really well. It sounds like wood and breaks in like 10, 15 feet of water has been pretty productive up there. I guess over to the Mississippi River, sounds like they're getting good gills, good panfish up and down the river near structure, near shore, and weed lines near breaks. Walleyes at wing dams, smallmouth at wing dams, being caught on poppers and topwater stuff. That action's always a lot of fun. Over to the Milwaukee area, the Milwaukee River over there is back down to being pretty low, which concentrates the fish in deeper pockets. So a great opportunity to get out there and get some smallmouth. That's a improving fishery for sure. Up and down the East Coast over here, the Kings are going to start moving into harbors. I haven't heard much about it yet, but it should be pretty soon here. Usually September for sure. They're starting to move in. So any day now you'll start to hear about Kings moving in there and shore anglers getting those fish, and that's going to be the same way up and down the coast. Otherwise, the charter guys are still getting some fish, but I have seen from some reports that those fish are moving in shallower. So looking forward to some great salmon and trout action over there in the fall. Otherwise, as far as trout fishing around the area goes, local streams are back to their seasonal flows, or a little bit low on the low side. Wild parsnip continues to die off, but is still a problem in some areas. Otherwise, sporadic catches of mayflies and occasionally caddisflies are coming off, mostly in the early morning or evening, but we are full on into hopper season now, so hoppers are probably your best bet to find fish on topwater, especially on small streams, if mayflies or anything aren't coming off. Although crickets, beetles, and ants are also on the trout's menu this time of year. Of course, woolly buggers and nymphs can be effective anytime fish aren't looking up. On the spinning gear side of things, same as it has been all summer. Panther martins, tube jigs, and rapalas all work great. And live bait, it's hard to beat a red worm under a bobber. So I guess that pretty much does it for the report. Post your comments and catches below. I'd love to see how folks are doing out there. Otherwise, feel free to call the shop, 241-4225, if you want us to expand on anything I've talked about here. And yeah, I guess that pretty much does it, though. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Take care.